Hello, I'm Carla Schroer of Cultural Heritage Imaging, and in this video, we're going to take all the work we've been doing in the Digital Lab Notebook and use it to make our final outputs, our submission information packages, or SIP archives. And we've got some options in how we do that, and we're going to go through that in this video. The idea with the SIP is that we're going to take the information about how we captured the images, processed the data into final results, inspector reports, other documents that we might want to include, and we're going to wrap all of those things up together in some internationally understood formats. So the options here are to build just the images with the inspector reports and the metadata, and that's a great thing to do, because that's the most valuable data that we have in this computational photography work. And we have the option of creating these SIPs in either the METS or BAGIT format. METS is the metadata encoding and transmission standard. And BAGIT is a simpler format. And inside that, we're going to have a bunch of metadata formats, and it's also going to have manifests of the files that are there and checksums that allow people to manage the data and see if a file has been munged in some way. So included in these SIPs are multiple metadata outputs, and I'm going to show you those in the SIP that we build right now. So let's go over to the DLN and open our image bundles. And we're going to take the one that we've been using most recently, which is a reflectance transformation imaging, or RTI image bundle. And we're going to open that up. And we've been doing a lot of work to get this set up. Some of it comes in the sample package. Some of it we've been doing as part of this video series. So we already have told it where the files are on our hard drive. We have an archival image folder, so it'll collect those images and include them for us. We can have resources and we can have work products. And resources is where we might put things like a picture of a color card, or from the RTI building process, an image showing the light positions on a sphere, or light positions for our dome if we were using an RTI dome, those kinds of things. So these are essentially files that we want to include, but that aren't part of the images we're actually going to process, but they could help somebody get more data, more value out of our image set at a later time. So we've associated a subject, we have equipment, we have setup photos, all these things have already been done, and we've built a couple of work products. In the last video, we did work products. So now is when we're going to put it all together with the SIP archive. So I'm going to start a new one right here. And the first thing I need to do is give it a name. And this is going to be its file name on the hard drive. So I want to follow good naming practice. I don't want dots in the file name. So I've converted the dots in this catalog number to an underscore. And this is going to be our this is just a demo SIP. Okay, and so now we're going to tell it what do we want to include in that SIP. Just the images and metadata, images, work products and metadata, or work products and metadata. And I'm going to choose that middle one. Hopefully, if you're building something with just your work products and metadata, you've already built a separate SIP with your images. Okay, then we're going to tell it the format, and this is where we're choosing between the BAGIT and METS. And I'm going to demo with BAGIT. There's a lot more information about these formats in the user guide if you need more information. So now we're going to tell it where on our hard drive we actually want to save the SIP. And unlike all of the work we've been doing with paths up till now, everything's relative to that project folder for our image bundles. But for the SIP, we can put it anywhere on an external drive or a server, anywhere that makes sense. And the reason is these SIPs could be very large. If we have a large project with a lot of high-res photos and they're all going to get wrapped up, we want to make sure we have enough hard drive space where we save it. We might be preparing, let's say, an external drive with a bunch of these SIPs so that we can hand them off to somebody else. So I have a little SIP test area where I'm going to save this, and this is our demo SIP. So I'm going to save it in that folder. And then I can add a little description here, and I have something that I just wrote, very simple. Oops, that's not the one I meant to include. So this is just a demo SIP here of an RTI. It's not a complete image set, and so forth. So at the bottom of this window, everything is grayed out, and that's because we have not run the SIP archiver yet. And so the system will populate that creation date and creation outcome for us. So I need to save this record. Now I have the option to run the SIP archiver. But before I do that, I want to go associate work products with this SIP, because otherwise it's not going to include any work products. So if I go to the work product tab, I will see 2 work products that are associated with this image bundle. So these are only going to be the work products that have been associated with this specific image bundle. So I may have created work products all over the place for a whole bunch of other image bundles, but they're not going to show up here because they're not relevant to this image bundle. So the one I want to save is this one we built in the last video. That's the one I want to include in the SIP. I could include both of them. I also have the option to include documents here, but I have already included documents in other parts of the system, like with my processing data with my work product. So if I have other documents at the project level, at the subject level, those are going to be part of my SIP. But this is allowing me to add, if I had an additional document specific to this SIP, I could include it here. Okay, so we're ready to run the SIP archiver. I'm going to click that, and because this is just a small little sample set with only a few images, it's going to go pretty fast. So it's going to build that SIP for me, and then it's going to tell me that it's done, and you can see it's populated down here, the date that it was created and other information, and I can tell the software to just open this for me on my hard drive, and it's going to do that. So what I have here is, let's just go up one level. Here's the SIP, the demo SIP folder that I told it to save. And the SIP is this zip file right here. And so it's zipped up the images and the metadata and the report, as well as some manifest files. So we're going to go look at that. The software also creates the HTML report, a copy of that. It's also inside the SIP right here for you to just double check. This was what I intended. This is the data set I was looking at. And we showed this in one of the other videos, but this human readable report is just really, really valuable. In fact, I recommend that you take a look at that before you build your SIP to make sure you have everything set up that you want to be included in that SIP. It's also going to take any documents that happen to have been associated with the image bundle, and it's going to export those from the database if they were in the database. We can also have documents that are done by reference from a URL or from an ISBN number or a DOI. But if we have documents that we put in the database, it will export those documents, and they'll be inside the SIP, but it makes a copy of them right here for you to check out as well. You don't need to save these necessarily, but it's just a nice little check on the system. So here's the actual SIP that was produced. And I'm just going to double click so it gets unzipped. And so now we're looking at it. And this is the folder that was created, that is unzipped. So this is everything that's inside the SIP. And at the top level, the first thing you're going to notice is there's a manifest file. That's just a text file. And what that is a list of all of the files that are in this SIP. And it's going to have the path to them relative to this package that they're in, this folder that they're in. And then that big number on the left is a checksum that can be used to manage the data and make sure the files don't get corrupted or aren't corrupted, or they can be detected if they are. There's some other things that go along with Bagot that are created for you automatically. Most of the things we care about are going to be in this data folder. So inside here are a bunch of folders. Our archival images, these are going to be in that folder that we gave it, the original captures. There's just a few in this demo. The documents, which we saw an example of up there, there's just a log file for RTI in this case. That HTML report we just looked at. our work product. So this is the output, and this is the work product for the one we included. And if we'd included both of them, there'd be 2 folders here. So that just has those files in it that were part of that work product. Our resources folder in this case has things like the log file. It has the light position file and a couple other things related to how that RTI was built. Now let's go take a look at the metadata. So there's metadata that gets produced automatically by the system. And let's just take a quick look at the richest set of metadata that you get from this system, which is the SciDoc Conceptual Reference Model, or CRM mapped linked open data. And so that's using that semantic ontology of the CRM, and it's building this very, very detailed file. You can see over here, if I use the scroll bar, that, wow, there's a ton of information in here. This is a huge file. But this is intended to be used by computers, by machines, to find linkages, to allow us to graph the relationships between the data, and to be able to look at information that could link up with other data that we've produced or other people have produced if we publish this in a way that allows it to be found. So that's the richest set of data that the system produces. You don't need to know anything about what I just said. It's just going to do that for you, and that file is going to be in your SIP. And there's also a Dublin Core record and a Lido record that we could look at quickly here. That's going to be a much smaller file, not nearly as much or as rich of information. But if that's the kind of information that the person or group that's archiving your data wants, that record is in there, and that can help them manage that. So that's your SIP and the information in your SIP. If we go back over here, you'll see that for the image bundle, there's a record of all the SIPs that we've built. So we can see the SIPs that have been created and look at them that way. So hope this helps. Make sure to look at the user guide. Tons of information there. Lots of information on the forums. Come check things out there. And thanks for watching.